do in 1 second, there's a command that we need to run in the terminal that's going to take a hot minute to download. So because of that, we're going to actually do things a little out of order tonight. We're going to get that command. We're going to do our file setup. We're going to get that command running. Then we're going to switch over to stand up. And then we're going to install a couple other dev tools and get into intro to computer science. Any pressing questions before we get started? Okay, let's go ahead and dive on in. So as always, I'm going to head over to Finder. And I'm going to go to my desktop, to my code. I'm going to create my new week 5. And inside my week 5, I'm going to create my day 1. And once I get my day 1 created, I'm going to take day 1 and go ahead and drag that into VS Code. Reminder, very important to keep your files organized because all of that organization is going to be coming back to help you out in the long term. When you come back, when you reference these projects, when you start working or you start trying to do a project of your own, you're going to want to be able to go back and reference these. So make sure you're staying organized in your my code. I created a week 5. I created my day 1. I took my day 1, drug it right into my VS Code icon on my dock, and that popped open my VS Code. From there, I am going to go over and create a new file. And for once, this is not going to be called index.html. We're actually going to create a file called script.js. Don't worry, we're not doing a deep dive in JavaScript yet. We're just getting everything set up. And having a file created before we install these tools just makes it a little bit easier to get the terminal open. Now, this is going to be your first intro to the terminal. The terminal is one of those things that it seems a lot like HTML. It seems very hard until you get it. And then when you get it, something just clicks and you're not afraid of it anymore. That may not come during the course of this cohort. That is okay. Nathan's going to give you a little bit more of an intro to the terminal. That's okay. We'll work we'll work up to it. For right now, though, we do need to install a couple developer tools in order to be able to actually make our code run. So what we're going to do is once you get your script.js created in your day 1 folder in VS Code, we're going to right-click on the script.js. That's 2 fingers if you're using the trackpad, and go down to Open an Integrated Terminal. And that's going to open a little terminal window down here. We're not going to do too much in the terminal tonight, but we are going to get some tools installed. And that's going to allow us to install Node.js, which is what we call our JavaScript runtime. It's one of 2 JavaScript runtimes we'll be using. One will be in the browser, and the other one will be over here. A runtime is exactly what it sounds like. It is what is running our code at the time of execution. It is basically a way for us to say, hey, this JavaScript file over here, we want to see what's happening when it goes ahead and you run it. That is kind of like when we open our index.html in the browser is then reading through that index.html and showing it. Well, we can put anything in our index.html. It doesn't run until it gets over into the browser and we either hit refresh or it auto reloads. The same goes for our JavaScript. We can put whatever we want in this file, but at some point we have to be able to say, hey, go run this. One place we can do that is in the browser, which we'll be working our way up to. The other way is this runtime environment called Node.js, which will be coming back to us when we get back into server-side development as well. But to get started, what we are going to do is we are going to install the Xcode developer tools. And this is something that Apple provides to us that takes a long time to download. So I am going to drop the command in the chat. I highly recommend you copy and paste that directly in because every single letter, just like in our code, matters in the terminal. So that is Xcode, all one word, dash, the word select, a space, 2 dashes, and the word install. So there's only one space in that entire command, and that is between the word select and the 2 dashes that come before the install. So you're going to go ahead and copy that, come over to your terminal and paste it. Now in the terminal, nothing runs until we hit the enter button. So when I go ahead and hit enter, I'm going to get an error message that says this is already installed. What you guys should get is a little pop-up message in a separate window with an install button. Hopefully that's what you got. Go ahead and click on install, and don't panic. The first thing you're going to see is that it's going to take like 3 hours to download. It's a little liar. It goes a lot faster than that. So just let that sit for a moment. You may have to hit agree on the software license, but someone give me a thumbs up if they got to the downloading phase. Cool. Thank you. Okay. With all of that said, while that's running in the background, let's go ahead and do stand up. What did we learn last week? What did we run into with the homework? How are we feeling in general? Don't be afraid to come off mute. Chat is not the only way to participate here. Rain, go ahead.
So pertaining to the homework.
Yes.
Okay. We did the 30-minute build part of a website. I feel like I did everything right, but for some reason I cannot get it to load anymore.
Okay.
Once I went back, I checked all my opening elements, my closing tags, my self-closing tags, and I don't know.
Do you want to share your screen? If it's a quick thing, we can take a quick look. If it isn't, then I'm going to push you to a one-on-one, but let's take a quick look.
Okay, hold on 1 second. This is it. Okay. And excuse all of my screens that are open, because when I tell you, I had to get up and walk away.
And keep throwing things in chat, guys, for stand up, and I'll read through them and go over that in a second. Okay, so what happens when you stop your live share and restart it?
Oh, stop it and restart it?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, your live share, not your screen share.
Sorry about that. Okay. Index should be it. Yes.
Okay. So right off the bat, one thing I noticed is that your folder name is index.html, and that might be causing some problems. So I'm going to request remote, and I am going to just take a peek as to what's going on here in Finder, because sometimes the problem isn't with our code, it's with our file structure. So if I take a look at this in column view, we can see here is your folder that you did everything in, but you created a folder called index.html and then put your files inside of that. And that might be causing some issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this just to something like temp. Take these 2 files and move it outside of that folder. Go ahead and delete that folder. And then this is the folder that I'm going to open in your VS Code instead. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to close out. This should be fine. Okay, so now I'm going to pop open your index.html. Everything's there. And now when I go live, we see a copy of your code.
Well, I literally had it like, okay, I even showed it to, one of the teacher's assistants. I had my Google logo showing. I did use Wiki for the Google image. I was like, well, maybe that's why, but I doubt it. And another thing, I noticed that when I go live, it's now opening in Safari instead of Chrome like it was.
So these are all great. These are all great things to bring to a one-on-one. Because it doesn't look like you have Chrome installed, or if you do, not properly. So I'm guessing that Chrome is not in your applications folder. Yep. So if we go to the G section, you see how Chrome isn't in here. That's because you're running Chrome maybe from your downloads folder instead of having it properly installed, which is why that switched off. And then there are a couple other issues here in your code as well, like you're referencing Google logo.png, but that's not in this folder.
So, yes.
So
sorry, right.
I don't want to derail class. So if you want to grab a one-on-one with me, that's fine. And a very good reminder for everyone, if there is a one-on-one time that is not available, shoot me a Slack message. There are often times that I can make an exception and stay on after class or get up a little bit earlier in the morning. Oftentimes, a lot of these issues can be fixed with a 15-minute one-on-one. So don't hesitate to shoot me a Slack message if you check my link and there aren't any available times that work for you. That's totally fine. Shoot me a message and we can work with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, let me catch up here on stand up. Okay, so we did a little bit of Flexbox and Flexbox Froggy as an optional homework assignment, right? That unlocks a new kind of layer for CSS layout that allows us to be more dynamic and flex our content around the screen, right? Based off of what other elements are there. That's your justify content, that's your line items, that's your display flex. That is all kinds of fun stuff you can do with Flexbox Froggy to really build a dynamic layout. That also makes it easier for us to center content on the screen, whether that's vertically or horizontally. We also dove into the nav bar a little bit and learned about how, hey, Bootstrap is not only helpful for just the grid element, but it also has a ton of different components that are pre-built in Bootstrap. So we use the nav bar, and then we also use the card in the portfolio, right? And that was a way for us to have something actually pretty well built, nice little touches on it, like hovers on our buttons, rounded edges, border colors, all of that stuff comes right in from Bootstrap that is pre-built. So the downside to that is we need to learn the documentation, and it's a little bit more finicky to make sure our HTML is spot on to make sure that those components are working. The upside, though, is that those are professionally designed components that we can just use kind of off the shelf, right? So instead of having to build from scratch, we're able to use those components. Tara mentioned that we touched on important to override things in our CSS. That is a double-edged sword, because if you use a little bit too much of important, all of a sudden you run into things that should be overriding, not overriding. But every now and then Bootstrap will use important, and the only way for us to trump their important is to say that our color is more important. So if you are working with CSS, if you are cursing up a storm and you're going, I swear this should be working, it's not changing my code, it never hurts to throw an important on there. But if that does not fix the issue, I recommend taking that important out and debugging a little bit more to figure out why your CSS isn't applying. But sometimes it is important to override, especially for color. Gagan, you mentioned the CSS link. What did you mean by that? An external CSS file?
No, I thought I didn't see the link file in her code.
Gotcha.
Oh my God, please tell me, because I'm over here like I just had it populating beautifully and I must have hit delete, or maybe my daughter did, and something. Please tell me.
So that is a very good step to check. When your CSS suddenly implodes on you and you have no idea why, make sure up in your head tag you've got your link with your rel and the href, and whatever the href is properly pointing to the same name of the file as your external style sheet. Sometimes it can be as simple. The most common thing that I see is the file name is called style.css, but your link href is pointing to styles with an s.css. Very easy to get a space in that file name by accident or something like that. So sometimes, and this happens on production websites as well, sometimes you'll load a website and it looks like it's all in black and white and nothing is laid out properly. And you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Oftentimes that is the HTML loading, but for whatever reason, it couldn't pull in the CSS. So all of the styles just disappear from the website. So that is something to check out. Asma, I love Natasha. What's up?
Okay, so don't kill me, but I absolutely just deleted my the my code folder, the 5. I was trying to do the new folder in week 5, and I think I threw it in the trash.
So hit Command Z and see if that brings it back. Okay. I'm going to put you in a breakout room and Ariel can help you just pull that out of the trash.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. You should have a button on your, oh, okay, perfect. Asma, I love your note there about not being masters, right? I know that 30-minute pop quiz right at the end of class really got some people's heartbeats racing, right? That is, I know it seems cruel, but that is letting you guys fly out of the nest, right? We are crossing this threshold of HTML and CSS being done. And we get a little bit of a breather. We get a little bit of a reset with this intro to computer science and DevOps, but all of a sudden, HTML is going to start creeping back into our HTML before we know it, right? So you are not, we definitely don't expect you to be masters. And it's really that tough moment for you guys, right? Because we think that this is, we are building all these sites, you're keeping up with coding with me, you think you're doing great, and then we get to that real world moment and it's like we hit a brick wall, right? And it's like, where do we even start? That is the challenge of engineering, saying, okay, I can't make all of this site all at once, no matter how small it is. So let me pick that one little piece. What foundation do I need to lie before I get started? I need my index.html. I need my style.css. I need to link them. I need to get my bootstrap in. Okay, now all of a sudden you're not just facing that fear of it's a blinking white cursor. What do I do now? Then you can build your way into, all right, I've got my file set up. I've got a little bit of momentum. Let me ride that momentum. What's the first thing that I see? What is that first element? Whether it's the Google logo, whether it's a text input, whether it's a header, whatever you guys chose to build, that moment of engineering is always the toughest. Where do I start? And breaking it down into those smallest steps is the best way to start your momentum. Even if it doesn't look perfect, there are different approaches you can take. You may say, I just want to get everything on the screen. I don't care if it's styled. I don't care if it's laid out. I'm just going to get everything on the screen. Or you may take the approach of saying, I'm going to do that first thing, and I'm going to get that first thing looking perfect before I move on to the next one. It's okay if you haven't figured it out. That takes time, that takes experience. So challenge yourselves while we're going through this. If you think everything's flowing along with your JavaScript, don't hesitate to go back and push yourself on that HTML. Even if you're just spending 15 minutes on it a day, keep on pushing yourself. Look at a little other user interface that you see, push yourself to recreate it. That's what's going to make you guys better at HTML and CSS is practice. I've taught you all that I know about HTML and CSS. I've taught you all that I can teach you. At this point, now it's up to you to push yourself and get that experience, and know that those one-on-ones continue to be available for you. Even if you are feeling behind on your HTML and CSS, don't feel like you can't come to me or the other TAs. We can help you on those side projects. We can help you with that practice. What we can't do is invest the practice time in for you to gain that experience. So you're not going to be masters. We're not expecting you to be able to build Netflix from scratch or any production website that you do, but we do expect you to continue to push yourself, get that practice, because that is the only way that you'll be able to build the confidence to become a junior developer and ultimately a senior level developer. And that is really the only difference. That is the most important difference in my mind. What makes a junior developer different from a senior developer? A senior developer can take that experience and turn it around and teach someone else. You guys as junior developers will be expected to ask questions. You will not be expected to be able to go out on your own and build something from scratch. That is just not realistic. There's so much software engineering to learn that you guys on the job will be getting experience. So thank you for throwing that out. You guys are not going to be expected to be masters at the end of this, but hopefully you are pushing yourselves, building a little bit of confidence as you're going. And as you're hitting those speed bumps, recognize that they are not roadblocks if you reach out and ask for help and get those one-on-one scheduled, because they will be roadblocks and those roadblocks will be crushing to your confidence. But if you push on those roadblocks with helps from a mentor, that all of a sudden isn't a roadblock anymore. It is just a speed bump along your journey. Okay, I think I've used that metaphor to death now, so I can keep on going. Glad the Xcode installs are finishing. I know that takes forever for that to run, and everyone panics when it sees 42 hours. So it should be wrapping up for everyone. Brandy, I'm not sure if the Xcode from the App Store installs the dev tools or not. If you ran that command and it said it's already installed, then you're fine. If you run that command and it gives you another pop-up to install it, it won't like clash with the Xcode you already have downloaded. CR, if you are getting a command not found, there's probably a typo in the command. Try copying and pasting it right from Slack. And if you're still having a problem, raise your hand and you can screen share. Every letter matters there, including the dashes and the spaces. Goggin, what's up?
So just to add things to like practicing on,
Yeah, please.
HTML, CSS, I have made a group for only students. If you guys want to join, just let me know. I'll share you guys the link. And we would like basically just do mock-ups on there. Like with the, I'll share a picture or somebody share a picture. We just have to do that in HTML and CSS to practice code. And we did this once so far because I feel like groups are better than doing it alone. Because obviously you learn from each other, and that's the best way.
Absolutely. And also take advantage of your Coworks memberships. I am going to try and do an in-office, an in-person office hours this weekend. I need to go back to that poll from a week or two ago and see what time works best for everyone. But I will be doing office hours in person at Common Space and then also have Zoom up. So if you want to join them, you can. And office hours are really meant for you guys. It's kind of like a group one-on-one. And I bring nothing to the table, right? I'm just there for any questions that pop up. So I will be getting back to you on office hours this weekend. And then on Thursday, we will not be having class on Zoom. We will be attending Open Hack again. So that will be at 6 p.m. You do not have to be there at 5:30. You can get there at 6. We won't be taking attendance, so attendance is highly encouraged but not required. And they will
Have
also
water there this time.
what's that?
There's gonna be water there this time for those of us who don't drink.
I will shoot Mike a message and see if we can get some non-alcoholic options there. And they will also have a professional photographer there. So if you want to get another headshot taken, you can. And then during our in-person week coming up, I think it's the 1st or 2nd week of June, Karen will also be back for another round of headshots. So plenty of opportunities to get your headshot taken. If you didn't love the pictures that were taken or didn't have an opportunity last time, there will be a professional photographer there at Open Hack on Thursday. No expectations. Come, be ready to socialize. Try and if you have a little social anxiety, think about your journey so far throughout the boot camp and think about what you would want to share with people. But you get much further by listening than you do by talking. So don't be afraid to kind of break away from your fellow students and listen into other conversations. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Everyone at Open Hack was a beginner at one point or another. It may have been 30 years ago since they started coding, but everyone has a different experience along the technology journey, and not everyone is a coder. Some things to think about going into Open Hack. It will be at the same space, common space, right next to Pavone's downtown. It is a block or two up from the Tech Garden, depending on what you count as a block. So yes, same space, 6 o'clock. There is a meetup link circulating that I'll make sure to get shared with you guys. So some options there. Rain, I will not lie to you. There is a very fine line to walk between tipsy coding and drunk coding. Sometimes coding leads you to drinking. Sometimes it does not work out well. It is a very, very fine line. And yeah, I will leave it there because this is recorded on YouTube. Okay. Any questions? Anyone have issues getting Xcode installed? Everyone have it downloaded? Get a happy face message?
Max, I believe I followed your instructions, but if you can just reiterate them just to make sure I did everything correctly before we began.
Yep. So it's pop open the terminal, copy and paste that Xcode select install in. There may be a download or install button, and you may have to hit agree to the license. It will go through. The download will take at least a minute. Once that's done, it will give you like Xcode developer tools are installed. You hit OK, and that's it. You should be all caught up. Other than creating a week 5 day 1 folder and creating script.js inside of it.
Okay, I'm good to go. Thank you.
Cool. 1 second to catch up on messages here. Okay. I am going to go ahead and dive in with the next step. So the developer tools are something that Apple provides to us. It has a bunch of things in it, like Ruby and Git. We won't be learning a ton of Ruby or any Ruby, but there are certain things in that developer tools that we need to be able to install other developer tools, one of which is called Homebrew. Homebrew is a package manager, and in order to install it, we are going to copy and paste the command that I just put in Slack. So in the Zoom chat. So go ahead and copy that. And then head back to your terminal, hit Command V. Help if I copied the right link. Go ahead and copy that from Zoom, go down to your terminal, paste that in, and go ahead and hit enter on that. Now, what's going to pop up is it says checking for sudo access. Sudo is like the admin command. It's like the trump card. It's basically giving Homebrew access to the OS level commands. Now, it's going to say password, and it just has a square there. When you type in your password, it's not going to look like you're typing anything at all. Do not worry, you are. Type in the password to your Mac login and hit the enter button. Again, it's not going to look like you're typing any characters. If that is okay, go ahead and type in your password, hit enter, and it should move you down to the next step. So I'm just typed in my password. There's no way to know it's typing. When you hit enter, it's going to show you this output of what it's going to hit install. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on that, and it's going to start my install for me. Allie, I'm glad you caught your mistake. No big deal. That doesn't go on YouTube or anything. This is a very lightweight intro to Linux and Bash and Shell, which are all related to the terminal. We will not be doing a deep dive. We'll be doing a little bit more intro to the terminal later on, but this is all in hopes of getting us set up for terminal. Janya, what's up?
How you say my name, Max?
Oh, say it for me one more time.
Janaya.
Janaya, thank you.
Okay, so I accidentally just like deleted or closed out of
The terminal or all of VS Code?
the whole VS Code. So I opened it, I got the terminal back open. So after I opened the terminal, do I have to do the install part again?
You don't. Just jump down to that homebrew command unless you ran the homebrew, and then you're good to go.
Nope, I didn't get there. I ended up deleting it trying to get there.
Okay, yeah, so just do the homebrew. Once Xcode's installed, you got it on your computer. There's no need to reinstall it.
Okay, so after I grab that code out the chat, I just put it in there and then enter.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it's going to ask you for your password for your Mac. And when you type that in, it's not going to look like you're typing. You are. So just type it in and hit enter, and it will move on to the nenext step. And you might have to hit enter 1 or 2 more times to get it to go through and install.
Alrighty then, thank you.
Yeah. Mo's going to post some basic Linux commands. We also have a we also will be going over a more in-depth intro to terminal, and I've got a whole list of intro commands as well. So don't worry if the terminal is kind of scary or unfamiliar right now. We will be doing a deeper dive into the terminal. I just wanted to get us set up for Node so we can practice around with our code. So that we will be diving more into the terminal later.
Hey, Max, real quick, can you pull up your terminal anymore? Because mine is very different than yours.
That could be because I have a version of Homebrew already installed, and that's also probably the case for you.
Okay, I was verifying. I'm like, oh, no. All right, thank you.
Yep. Janaya, did you still have a question, or did I get to you?
Oh no, sorry, I forgot to raise my hand. I mean,
Oh, you're
lower it.
fine.
All right.
Natasha, what's up?
Hi, it's me again. I have, excuse me, Xcode is installed, but when I went to paste the code from the chat, it says install requested for command, blah, 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 error.
Go ahead, share your screen. Let's take a quick look.
Uh-huh. I think it's this one. Nope, not that one. Sorry, struggling. I lost the share screen button.
There you go.
Oh, yay, okay. It's this one.
Okay, that's because you didn't copy the full part of the command.
Hmm,
So make sure that you're getting the full part. So if you switch back to Zoom, it starts with the /bin-bash. So you make sure you get that whole thing copied.
okay. And then just enter it right underneath.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else need help? Get stuck now, you'll be lost all class. So don't be afraid to raise your hand if you need help. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is we are going to install Node. And so the last command that we will need to be in, the last thing that we will need to do is close. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen before someone can yell at me. Okay. We actually need to close out of our terminal. And this is an important step to remember whenever we install a new developer tool. The terminal kind of needs a reboot so it knows what commands are installed, what commands it has access to. So what we're going to do is we're going to close out of the terminal. We are going to right click and reopen the terminal. And then we are going to type in the command brew install node with spaces in between it. Go ahead and hit enter on that. And is it working for you guys? Great. Who would like to volunteer as tribute?
I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
It's just saying that brew. Oh,
Okay.
brew not
Yep,
found.
I thought I was gonna miss this step.
Isn't that sudo or something?
I have to put brew in the path. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna request remote control, Jen, just because
Yep.
it might be quicker for me to pull it from your screen. Hopefully, get this out of the way. Get this out of the way. Okay, so there are 2 commands to run. Let's just switch over.
Just one, please.
Could you do me a favor, Jen? Just copy that and then go to the Zoom chat and paste it.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so those are 2 separate commands that you guys need to run. The first one, I'm gonna just take what Jen posted and post it as 2 separate messages. Those are 2 commands that you want to copy and paste. Make sure that you're, oh crap, that's not gonna work. Hold on, I'm sorry. Abort.
So Max, should we like close out that terminal again and then reopen the terminal?
It's not gonna matter until you run these commands. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, you gotta copy and paste the whole thing and run it. That's what I did for it to start working.
Yep. Okay, so you can either copy it from the Zoom chat, or you can scroll up and copy both of those commands as separate commands and run those. So either one, it's basically what we're doing is we installed Homebrew, but the terminal doesn't know that we have Homebrew installed, which kind of seems silly. So what those two commands are doing are telling the terminal, hey, brew exists. We have this installed. Make sure that it's available. So after you run those two commands, then close out of the terminal, reopen it, and try your brew install node. And this is always a tricky step. So if you guys get through brew install node, pat yourself on the back. If you're having problems, which I expect a lot of you guys to have, raise your hand and I can help you guys through it.
I see that the link that Jen posted has like her user profile in it.
Skip that one.
So-
I rewrote it as the 617 message that doesn't specify a username.
Okay, so do
So
we
you can just do the 3 that I
copy
put
paste
in.
one at a time?
Yes, copy paste one at a time and hit enter.
Enter in between all of them or enter after all of them are copy pasted?
After they're pasted, hit enter, and then you can go back for the next one, copy that, paste it, hit enter.
So after each
and then
one?
the third. After each one, yes.
Okay, there we go.
Max, mine says that 220.10 node is already installed.
Then you're good to go.
Okay.
Rain, what's up? You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
You're probably gonna tell me to do a one-on-one, but I'm just gonna ask away. I don't care if I'm embarrassed. Okay. I had to re-download the Xcode, and now I am lost in the sauce.
Okay, share your screen. It will be a good review for everyone because where you're stuck is probably where someone else is stuck. So
I didn't even want to ask. Like, okay.
this is like one of the toughest classes because there's so many little steps. It's so easy to get caught up in one of them. So
It's-
you're downloading
have
the
to wait
wrong
again.
Xcode.
Oh.
So I'm going to request remote. I am going to stop this only because this is a very large one to install and the one we installed is a little smaller. So I'm going to hopefully slide back to your Xcode, can you take me to where your week 5 day 1 is?
I sure can. Hold on one second.
Perfect. Okay. So we're going to go through these steps. I'm going to pop open in terminal. I'm going to do the Xcode select install. And I'm going to hit install on this and agree and continue on battery powers.
I will plug it in. Don't worry. Okay.
Okay, don't panic. 79 hours isn't as long as it actually takes. While it's doing this, I'm also going to switch back over to, I'm going to close out of the App Store. I'm going to switch over just to Safari and I'm going to grab the Homebrew install, which is brew.sh. I'm going to copy this command, which is also what's in the Zoom chat. And I can close out of this.
All right, Spectrum. Yeah.
It's a big download.
Yeah. And to anyone else who needed help, you're welcome, because it took a lot for me to ask for this help right now. Oh my God.
Give this a minute only because it's a good review for everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I can't wait 13 minutes.
Hopefully it should pick up. I have business Wi-Fi. Hopefully, so.
I'm going to try and run this command and see if it will work without. Go ahead and enter your password and then hit enter. Nope, it's gonna. Just gonna hold up until this finishes. Okay, so when this finishes, head over to chat and I paste it. I have at 6:17, I put in 3 commands there. You're gonna copy and paste each one in individually and hit enter. Once this is done, this will catch up and then you should be good to go.
It sounds great. Thank you so much.
And just raise your hand again if you get stuck when you go to execute those commands.
Okay, thank you.
Janaya, what's up?
Okay, can I share my screen? Cause I
Yep.
don't. Okay. Um,
Okay, so all of that looks good. So all you should have to do is your brew install node. BREW space install space NODE.
Okay. That first link that you sent, that one was saying something like not found. So do I do that now?
Do your brew install node and let's see if it works
Okay.
before I let you off your screen share.
Now I gotta find, where did the Zoom chat go? I don't know where the Zoom class went.
Here,
Oh, there.
I got you here. Let me just request remote.
Slack goes over.
So just a brew install node. And once this finishes, you will be all caught up. I'm actually going to wait for it to finish so everyone can see what that screen looks like, hopefully. Okay, this is going to take a hot minute. Sorry. Once this finishes, you'll be all caught up.
Okay, thank you.
Should our top look like that too as well?
What's that?
Should our top screen look like that as well? 'Cause I
No.
don't have anything. Okay.
No, that's fine. Asma, what's up?
I'm wondering, I have like a bunch of word vomit after I entered on the code. I'm
Okay,
not sure if it's working. Can I share my screen to make sure it's
you
working?
sure can.
Which one is it? 2, okay. Can you see my screen?
I can. I cannot see the bottom of it. However, what I can see is looking good. If you go all the way down to the bottom, once you get down to it, say installing node pouring, you should be good to go. So that installing node is the last thing that you're looking for. If you got to that step, then you're caught up and everything's working.
Yeah, I see installing node. All right, all
Perfect.
set.
Thank you for sharing. Who else needs help?
I think I've tried it like 5 different times and it still keeps saying the same thing. I did all of your 3 codes separate in the terminal and press enter and nothing happens.
Go ahead, share your screen.
Okay.
Okay, so
This is me trying to do it again.
So this step isn't going to work unless you do the previous step.
Yeah, it did say that it was installed. The X code.
So this step here, when you
Yeah.
install brew,
Yeah.
it was waiting. It says press return enter to continue. And you didn't hit enter on there. So go ahead and enter in your Mac password now.
Okay. Press enter.
Yep.
So seriously, the only thing I forgot to do was press enter. Wow.
So
Thank you.
once this is done, go ahead and try to oh, here we go.
Okay.
So now I can do this one. And that just source it. Where is the command? I'm gonna need you to go to the Zoom chat and then copy and paste the first one and hit enter, and then copy and paste the third one and hit enter.
Okay.
The second one I already did for you.
The first one and the third one you said.
Yep, one at a time though. So do the first one and copy it, paste it, hit enter, then go back and get the third one, copy, paste it, hit enter. So hit enter on that one before you get the third one. Okay, now, yep, and hit enter. And you're all caught up as soon as that one's done.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Who else needs help? Rain, what's up?
I put in the code and it's saying it has an error. I'm gonna try it one more time before I share my screen with you. Yeah, so it's saying no such file.
Share your screen.
Okay.
You're going to have the same problem as Natasha. Before we can run those 3 commands, we have to install Homebrew.
And that's what it's asking for. It says run brew help, so that could be why.
You are just missing the first slash there. So let me
Oh.
request remote.
Mhm.
When you are running this command, this whole command starts with slash at the beginning. So Mac password, enter, and then you can run the other 3.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else?
Max, how do you know if it's successful?
That is a good question. It should say installing node. The
Yeah, it
ultimate.
is. Wait,
What's that?
it said fetching and downloading.
Yeah, so the ultimate test is you should be able to type in node space -v and hit enter. And yours should be node version 20. I'm on version 19, doesn't make a huge difference. But if you can type in node space -v and hit enter, you should get a version number back. If you've got node not installed or command not found, raise your hand. If you get a version number coming back, pat yourself on the back.
What was it again, Max? I'm sorry. Node
space -v.
V
and
is
enter.
in Victor.
V is in Victor, stands for version.
Is it okay if we got the version 20.1?
You should have 20. I'm a little behind on my node version, but that's okay. It won't make any difference.
Okay.
If you're on node like 12, we would panic. But if you are on 20, that is the latest. And if you're above like 14, you're good to go.
So as long as it says welcome, we're good.
No, you've got a very old
Node.
version of node installed if it's saying welcome.
Mine says, welcome to node.js version 20 type.help for more information.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I've never seen a welcome before, but if it says you're on version 20, you're good to go.
Excellent. Thank
Maybe
you.
they got a little bit friendlier in the newer version.
Maybe it's the AI taking over. They want us to know they're friendly.
Could be.
Hmm.
All right. Anyone need help? Because because now we're going to crack into computer science now that we've got all the install out of the way, all the speed bumps. Okay. So a lot of people dive right into computer science. However, the problem with diving right into computer science is that it's all very theoretical. The fact of the matter is all computer science needs a language in order to manifest those concepts. The three most common programming languages used to teach intro coders are, does anyone want to guess? Other than HTML and CSS.
Java
C++.
and JavaScript.
Java is one. What were the others?
C++.
C++ isn't super common for a beginner programmer language, although
Right,
it is a
C
very
sharp.
popular language.
C# and SQL.
SQL technically isn't a programming language, it's a query language, but that's just getting down into semantics. The top three programming languages are, for beginners, not in terms of global worldwide use, but for beginners, are Java, Python, and JavaScript.
Oh shit, Python. Yeah.
Those are the three most common, not necessarily because they are the most beginner friendly, but because they've got a lot of curriculum developed around them, and they have features that almost all programming languages have. Now, why am I spending so much time harping on this? Because at the end of the program, you're going to get out and you're going to look at all these job descriptions, and they are going to be mentioning languages like C++, like Ruby, like Java, like Python, like C#. And you're going to look at those and be like, I'm not qualified for any of these. I'm never going to get a job. And you're going to go cry in the corner. That is not what you should be doing. What you should be doing is looking at them and going, okay, all of the concepts that I learned week 5 from Max in Intro to Computer Science are the same in all of those programming languages. That means things like variables and loops and data structures and functions are going to exist in any programming language that falls under that same kind of generic category of, hey, I want to be able to tell the computer what to do. Now, that doesn't mean that they're always called the same thing. For example, in JavaScript, we're going to learn all about objects. Objects are key value pairs. Basically, we name whatever we're storing, and then we put the value inside of that. Well, in Python, objects don't exist. What does exist is something called a dictionary. And all of these terms are transferable. And in fact, you can even Google, I know JavaScript, give me a guide to Python, and you will get 100 different Medium blog posts on people who learned JavaScript first and then learned Python and started to draw similarities between the two languages. So the reason why I explain all of this is we can't teach computer science in a vacuum. We need to be able to get hands-on to learn some of these concepts, but we can't get hands-on until we identify that these concepts are manifesting in a language. We call them languages because that's what they're similar to. In fact, I make the argument, and I am happy to argue this all day in a one-on-one, that it is more important now to learn a programming language than it is to learn a foreign language in high school. That's not to discount the importance of learning a foreign language, but I think personally, statistically, you're much more likely to need to know how to write a couple lines of code throughout your careers than you are going to need to be fluent in another foreign language. So just like another language, there is syntax. Think of syntax like the grammar, and the grammar is different in every language, right? You may learn in different languages you have to conjugate, right? Which is the way to basically attach the pronoun onto whatever word you're saying. You may learn that the word order is different in some languages than it is in others. Sometimes you start with the subject, sometimes you end with the subject of the sentence. all of that is true, not only when we're learning our first language, but in different programming languages. In fact, some programming languages are known to be in reverse. Ruby was written because it was created by someone in Japan, and the creator thought that we were talking to the computer backwards. He thought the code would be more easy to read if we did it in reverse. And so Ruby is known for being a little different in the order that we write the commands. We are diving into JavaScript because while we are still focusing on concepts, we need to be able to test those concepts. We need to be able to play around with them. So JavaScript happens to be what we will be spending 4 weeks on after DevOps. But this week, we aren't really going to be creating any major projects. Everything that we're working on our code is going to be in a playground environment. In other words, I'm going to show you something. We're going to play around with it. We're going to learn commenting very early on, and we're going to learn that everyone takes notes differently. You may be a vocab person where the way that things start making sense for you is by jotting down the words that I'm using and a definition with them. You may be someone who does not code along with this. This is probably the most important module to say, you do not need to code along with me. We'll be taking breaks, not only to catch up on code, but for you to play around with these concepts and make sure that you understand them. Before we dive in, does anyone have any anxiety that they would like to air out? I've never taught this way before, and that is my anxiety being aired out. We normally dive right into JavaScript concepts. So this is as new for you as it is for me. I've been writing JavaScript for a decade and a half, maybe 2 decades at this point. JavaScript is not new to me, but instead of dumping you in the deep end, we're going to break down step by step and go through basic programming concepts before we build anything substantial. All right, we are going to start out with our very first JavaScript command. So I'm going to come over to my script.js, and I am going to type in 1 + 1. And I'm going to put a semicolon at the end. Now, we just got our first dose of syntax. We did a plus command, which is called an operator. An operator is whenever we're telling the computer, hey, we've got some math stuff headed your way. Plus, minus, equal, all different operators that we'll be using. Divide, star for multiply, all of that stuff. So I type in 1 + 1, nothing happens. Why did nothing happen? Where's my 2 going to show up?
Console log.
Before we get to our console log, we have to tell the computer, hey, our code is ready for you to execute. We have to tell the computer, now is the time I wrote out my code, please go run it. In order to do that, we're going to come down to our terminal, and we're going to type in node, N-O-D-E, and we're going to type in script.js. When we hit enter on that, still nothing happens. But if you got an error instead of a new blank line, raise your hand. Janaya.
So with the terminal part, all my code is still on the terminal. Am I supposed to open a new terminal?
No, you can just use the new line that's there and just type in node space script.js and hit enter.
I don't have a new line. Like, what do you mean?
Share your screen. If you got a blank line, you after running node script.js, you're good to go. Okay, so scroll all the way down to the bottom of that window, and that is where your new line is. So if you just click down there,
Mhm.
Now you can type in your node space script.js and hit enter. NODE
Space what?
script SCRIPT .js and
Enter.
hit yep. And you're caught up.
Okay.
Anyone else get an error instead of a blank line? Okay. Oh,
I got
wait.
one. I got one. Uncaught syntax error, unexpected identifier script, but I put
So-
no script.js.
With a space in between?
Yeah.
Share your screen, let's take a look.
Let's see, maybe this is the problem.
Let's see.
Something went haywire. 1 second. To zoom. To share screen. One. So it's gonna be here. Can you see?
Yep, that's because you've got all of this up at the top in your file. So you were typing up in the file instead of typing in the terminal.
But
So
then I
you're-
put it in the terminal, so that's just messy because it's up there too.
Yeah, so Node can't run the command, can't run that file because you've got a syntax error. It doesn't
Okay.
know what's happening with your quotes.
Oh yeah, duh. Okay, got it.
So take that out, and then down in your terminal, you're gonna hit click down there, and then hit Control C to back out of where you were at. Control, not Command.
Control C. Yeah.
And one more time, Control C again.
Oop.
Twice in a row. Okay, now try node space script.js. And hit enter, and you're good.
Yay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I think my error is mainly lying not in the script itself, but within the copied codes that I put into the terminal earlier.
Okay, share your screen, let's take a look.
Okay.
Just request remote. So hope if I could type it in right. Okay, so hopefully you've got Brew. Okay, so after this install works, your node script.js should work.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so Goggin was totally right. We told this 1 + 1, and JavaScript is like, okay, great, that's 2. But we didn't tell it what to do with the 2. We just told it to add 2 numbers together. So what Node did is it looked at the 2 numbers, it added them together, and it went, well, you didn't tell me what to do with that, so I'm done. And it gave us a new line. That doesn't help us at all. So what we need to do is type in console.log and put our 1 + 1 in parentheses. Now be very careful here. Every space matters. So console is what we call a global command or a reserved word. It is something built into all versions of JavaScript that is telling it where we can output data for our purposes as a developer to debug. .log is a specific function that is built into the console that allows us to see the output. These parentheses are the first time we are seeing parameters. Parameters are additional information that we're giving that console.log function that is built into JavaScript to tell it what to output. So we put those in between the parentheses, just like we've got opening tags and closing tags. We have an opening parenthesis and our closing parenthesis. Then we put our semicolon at the end of the line. Semicolons are not required in JavaScript. However, most developers you will find still are using them because that is they were required at the beginning of JavaScript. So you're going to go ahead and put in your console.log, your 1 + 1. Now we're going to go down back to the terminal, and we're going to type in node space script.js and hit enter. Notice the difference. Now we have a 2 showing up in our terminal. If you do not have a 2 showing up in your terminal, check your syntax again. This has taken us back to the beginning of HTML, where every opening arrow, every closing arrow matters. Every single letter here counts. If you put a space in the wrong spot here, you won't get your output. Anyone need help? Did anyone not get 2? You got 2. This is your time to play around. Change
Yeah,
one of the.
mine did not come
Yep.
up. Yeah, and I know my syntax seems correct. So,
Share your screen.
um,
Before you do, did you save your script.js before going down to the terminal?
nope, I did not. Let me do it again before I share.
Max, real quick, can I get a
Yeah,
breakout?
I'm good.
You're co-host, so you should be able to put your own.
Okay.
Shannon, what's up?
So it's not really, I don't really need help per se, but I was putting a different number instead of 1 + 1. I was putting a different number in there, but 2 is still showing even after I saved it.
Now you have to
So-
rerun the node command. So that's a really good
Okay, so
point.
just do it again.
So, and so quote, I'll come to you next. But if you change something up here, you'll notice that that number does not change down here. We aren't running this in real time like a live share does. In fact, if you hit go live right now, go live freaks out at you and it's like, I don't even know what to go live on. What you doing? So if we change the numbers up here, we need to tell Node, hey, the file changed, go rerun that file. Now you may just type out node script.js, and as long as you save the file up here, you'll notice the number outputs the same. However, typing in node space script.js every time is a pain in the royal ass. So what do? If you are clicked down in the terminal, and this is a really important note for everyone, VS Code is listening to where your cursor is. So if I click down here and type, it's obviously going to show up down here. If I click up here and type, it shows up here. If you are sending a command to the terminal, you need to click down into here. And then if you hit the up arrow button, you'll notice it auto refills the last command that we had in
And if
there.
you push down, it deletes it.
And if you push down, it will delete it. In fact, if you hit up a couple times, it will show you all the recent commands that you've run. But we just want to hit the up arrow once and hit enter, and that will rerun that last command. Sequota, did you fix your problem?
Yes, I forgot to add the node script.js again before.
Beautiful. Okay. Any questions here?
So it'll only take addition and subtraction.
And multiplication and division. You can do it with a star. And that will give you that. And then you can also do it with a divide. And that will also give you the result.
Okay.
There's also
Thank you.
something called a modulus operator and comparative operators, but we will hold those off. Okay, so we've got this in here. This brings us to commenting. Commenting in different programming languages is different syntax. So in HTML, we use our arrow and our exclamation and our dash dash. You will notice that does not work in JavaScript. in JavaScript, we have two different syntaxes we can use for comments. The first one is a double slash. That double slash will ignore anything on this line. So I can say single line comment, but I don't need to close that. That means that if I write another line of code here, like 1 + 9, and save that and rerun it, you will notice that we get two things in our output. We will have both console logs show up there. Natasha, the up button is kind of like the rerun the last command. So it's technically going through the history of commands and filling them in for you. And then whenever you hit enter, it goes ahead and reruns it. Taylor, redial is a really good example. It's kind of like if you hit redial twice, it doesn't dial the last number, but the second to last number you dialed. Same for the arrow keys. You can keep on hitting up and it will cycle through them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So we've got our single line comment, but if I come down here and add in another line, come down to my JavaScript and my terminal and hit up enter, I get this very unfriendly message. That's like unexpected identifier line. Well, what's happening here is I just typed in some English, not JavaScript, and it freaked out and was like, I don't know what another line is. What are you trying to tell me to do? I'm freaking out here. So in order to do a multi-line comment, we do a slash and a star. And you notice that turned all of my code underneath it green. That's because a multi-line comment needs a star and a slash to close it off, just like a div tag does. So I can say multi-line comment, and when I put my slash and the star there, that will ignore everything from here down to here. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to come back down to my terminal. I do my node, my script.js. Oops. And now I've got my 10 and my 1.5 coming out and my commented out notes here. So what I'm going to do is add a note here, and I'm going to document my code as I'm learning it. So I'm going to say console.log outputs the information between the parentheses. And that is our first real comment. If you want to clear your terminal, because I'm seeing some notes in the chat, if you click down into the terminal and type in the word clear, all lowercase, and hit enter, that will clear out your terminal. And then if you hit up twice, that will bring up your node, and you can go ahead and rerun that. Did anyone need a screen share or have any issues? Okay. Next concept we get to is something called data types. So I'm going to leave a comment in my code for that. And we already saw our first data type, which is a number. We can add numbers together. And so our first data type is a number. Our second data type is something called a string. So if I say console.log, I need to put in quotes. The quotes are telling the computer, hey, the next thing coming your way is not a command. It's a piece of text, and I just want you to hold on to that text and output it for me. I'm not trying to tell you to console log something out or add something together. Whatever's coming your way is just text. And so I'm going to put in hello world, because that is a very classic command, your first thing to output. And this data type is called a string. So I'm going to leave a note for myself that that data type is a string. I come back down to my terminal, I hit up enter, and what do I see? Hello world coming out. At any point, raise your hand, because I'm not going to take a ton of breaks. Actually, I am going to take a break here. It's 6:58. So go through this, see if you have any questions. If you do, raise your hand. If not, go on break, be back at 7:25. Janaya, what's up?
Okay, so let me just share my screen because I don't see the rest of that at the bottom, and I wanted to clear that out as well. So
Sure.
1 second.
Okay, so if you click down in your terminal, you can type the word clear and hit enter, and that should clear it out.
Okay.
Now, if you hit the up arrow twice and hit enter, you will see all your output.
All right. So with the notes, does the note show down here as well, outside of like when we write?
No, the comments will only show in your code.
Okay.
And that's intentional, right? So the console is meant more to see what the computer's thinking or doing. The notes are just for us to reference when we're reading through our code.
Okay. Totally makes sense. All right.
Asma, what's up?
I just want to make sure for the string, so is it typically only used for storing text, and do they have to be in quotation at all times?
They are used for storing text. They do have to be in quotations. There are 3 separate quotation marks that we can use, and we'll cover that when we come back from the break. But yes, whenever we are storing text, we use a string with quotes.
Okay, thank you.
Max,
Yes.
when we get back from break, can you just do like a brief little synopsis, because I kind of got booted out after the breakout room. So just
Yeah. So just a quick one. Console log is what is telling the computer to output the text at the bottom.
Understand that part.
The numbers and operators, right? So the parentheses are what the parameters go in. It's providing additional information to console log to tell it kind of how it works. The operators are plus, divide, minus, and the star for multiply. And that's just telling it, hey, there are 2 numbers here, operate them. And then when after you do, put the output in the console. Then we also have, we've only covered 2 data types so far. One is a number and the other one is a string. So whenever we have text that is not a command, it's just some text we want the computer to store or operate on, we put it in quotes.
Okay, yeah, I understand that part. I just didn't know if you put anything in the terminal again.
Nope, just
Oh,
node
okay.
script.js over and over again to rerun our code.
Okay, so I'm good to go. Thank you.
Yeah. Jillian, what's up?
Hi, I've been having issues installing Homebrew.
Okay.
It keeps telling me every time I
Okay. So we have seen numbers, we've seen strings. One other data type that we should learn about is something called a Boolean. And a Boolean is either true or it's false. And you'll notice, much like numbers, we don't need those quotes. So if I save that and I come up here and I rerun this script, I get true and I get false coming out. Now, Asma asked a really good question on the strings. She said, do we always need quotes around strings? The answer is, for the most part, yes. However, JavaScript allows you to use 2 different kinds of quotes. You can use a single quote on your hello world. That is completely valid JavaScript. JavaScript does not care whether you use a single quote or a double quote, as long as the opening quote type is the same as the closing quote type. However, you will notice that as soon as you hit save, if you've got prettier on, prettier smacks those single quotes right out of the way and turns them into double quotes. That is because double quotes are preferred over single quotes. Even though JavaScript supports single quotes, the JavaScript community in general has moved towards favoring single quotes over double quotes. Natasha, what's up?
Just making sure I didn't miss anything. I have, my coding is up to the word string before we went on break. And I hung out for a little bit and I think you kept talking and teaching and I might have missed something. I'm not sure.
We just added Boolean after the break. We left out on string. I think I was just helping getting people caught up after we went on break.
Okay, so I'm right on. Okay, thank you.
I will note that I did not start a live share on this until during break. So if you hop over to the chat, you will see that I posted a link to the live share and you join that just like any other one. File, new window, go to the live share button, hit the join button, all that good stuff. So if you want to join in on that to see the code while I'm going, you can.
I'm already here.
Cool. Janaya, what's up?
Okay, the prettier part, I don't think mine is on as well. Like true false isn't showing up in my terminal.
Make sure you've saved the file before you hit up and enter in the terminal to rerun the command.
Okay, wait.
So save and then go back down to the terminal and hit the up arrow to autofill the last command that we ran and enter to run it.
All right, got it.
And I am re-sharing the live share link. My God, I just tried to combine 3 words into one there. Taylor, what's up? Do you have a question, Taylor, or should I keep going? Okay. Okay, so we've got, these are our basic data types. There are 2 other data types that we're going to work our way up to. Actually, we can cover them now. No, we're gonna do variables and then we'll get into those. So these are great, but it would be nice if we could store this information somewhere. That is called a variable. So what I'm going to do is I am going to come down here and I'm going to make my first variable. Now, there are 3 ways to what we call declare a variable. The first one is called a const. Const is short for constant. So I do my const and now I have to name my variable. So I'm going to call this first var. Now, you may have noticed how I capitalize subsequent letters in my code. This is a casing scheme called camel casing, and it's meant to be like the hump of a camel, right? The camel's head starts out low, and then every subsequent letter, the beginning letter of every subsequent word is a hump. So it's called camel casing because the first word is all lowercase, and then the first letter of every subsequent word is uppercase. There are other casing schemes like snake casing, where you separate every word with an underscore. And then there's also dash casing as well. JavaScript prefers camel casing as part of its naming scheme. It doesn't really matter to JavaScript as long as the variable name doesn't start out with a number, but camel casing is preferred in JavaScript. So when you see me naming things, you may have noticed that in my CSS. I do that in my JavaScript as well. That will be there. Okay, so I do my const first var, and now it's kind of yelling at me because it's like, all right, what do you want to store in your first var? So I'm going to store hello. Now we know it's a string because it's in quotes. If I forgot these quotes, it would say const first var hello. And it's like, hello, what do you want me to do with hello? Hello isn't valid JavaScript. What's that syntax? But because we put it in quotes, it's saying, oh, I'm going to take whatever is on the right side of this equal, that's this hello, and store it in first var. But what the computer's going to do is it's going to hit the end of this line and be like, well, you didn't tell me to do anything with first var, so I'm going to forget about it. Well, in order to be able to use that first var, we can reuse our console.log and put in first var and hit save. And now what's the computer doing? It is taking this hello and storing it in first var. It then forgets about first var until we use it right here. Then it's going to go up, get the value of first var, take hello, and dump it in to our console log for us. Now, when we go down and we run that command, we see hello down at the bottom. Any questions on that? This is really those little lines that I'm drawing going from here to here, here to here is very important. It seems trivial right now, but that is how the computer is thinking about our code. And so getting down to that level is going to make you not only a better developer at writing your code, but a better developer at debugging your code as well. Jen, your rectangle turning off is probably like an open at login issue. Remind me at the end of class and I can help you out with that.
I clicked that option, but it's still, it just turns off randomly.
Maybe check for updates on it. I'm not quite sure what else could be causing that. Okay. We also have, yeah, that's a good question, Shannon. So numbers and Booleans will be yellow in our terminal. Strings will be in white. And you may have started to notice that our color scheme up in the JavaScript code is also a different color. So strings are in orange. We have kind of numbers in this like light green, very light green. We have comments in our darker green. That is VS Code doing what we call syntax highlighting, which is just making it a little bit easier for us to read our code and be able to differentiate what different data types or different commands we're giving. So that's something that your eye kind of starts to pick up on over time. And you'll notice that that color scheme stays consistent. So when we declare a variable, it's this darker blue. When we name the variable, it's the lighter blue, and then that lighter blue is also used when we reference that variable here. So that color scheming, you'll kind of learn subliminally what it's trying to convey to you, and then all of a sudden something will be off, and you won't know why it's off. Well, it's because the colors aren't lining up, so something must be wrong somewhere around it. Great question. Okay. So we're going to run into a problem here. What if I want to change this variable? What if I don't want it to say hello anymore? I want it to say world. Well, if I say first var is now equal to the string world and execute this code, it gives me an error. And we can ignore all of this down here for now. This is called a stack trace. Do not be scared away by this. This is helpful when you inch your way up to more of full stack development. But for now, you're going to notice that JavaScript is a little bit more fickle. It's going to require you to be a little bit more concise. But when it gives you an error, it usually gives you a much more helpful error than the HTML looking like it just threw up in your browser. This error is going to give you a little bit more detail. It says assignment to a constant variable. This equal sign is our assignment operator. It is taking whatever is on the right part of our screen and assigning it into the variable on the left. However, when we made this variable, we declared this variable to be constant. Well, what's constant mean? We can't change it. In order to make a variable that we can change, we need to use let. So I'm going to say let second var equal test. Then I'm going to console.log my test. Then I'm going to set second var equal to world. And finally, I'm going to console log my second var again. CRO for now, yes, you do have to type that node script every time you want it to run. The shortcut, though, is if you're in your terminal and hit the up arrow, it will auto input the last terminal command that you ran, and then you can hit enter again. There's no live run on our JavaScript yet. We'll work our way up to that, but just for the playground right now, we kind of want to tell it, don't run this command until we're done editing it. Goggin, what's up?
I think I just remembered something. I think it's the camel casing also matters in JavaScript, right?
Is also what?
The camel casing, the way we type.
What about it?
Does it matter? Like the way we type, like, you know, like how it is, like the first var, the V is capital.
So as long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter. So if you're using dashes or underscores or all lowercase, as long as you keep that consistency down here, it doesn't matter. However, camel casing is a standard in JavaScript. So if you don't camel case your variables, someone who writes a lot of JavaScript code may look at you a little funny, because it is definitely like an industry standard, but to the computer, it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent.
Got it.
Natasha, what's up?
Okay, I have two questions.
Mhm.
Does all camel casing have to be in lowercase?
Yes.
Okay, because I know
It's
you
not a requirement that all variables start with a lowercase, but camel casing says that yes, it should start with lower.
Okay, because I caught that the beginning of the word should be capitalized, but like the very, very beginning is not. So I
So
guess.
think about it as the camel's head is lower than their bumps.
Mhm.
So the first word starts lower, and then all the bumps after that are upper.
Got it. The other question is, why is line 21 nested between those two? They're identical.
You mean 22 and 20 are identical?
Yes.
So let's take a look at our output. So I'm going to hit up and enter here, and we get all of this other output here, but let's catch up to right here. We've got our hello, and then we log it out, and we see hello here. Then we come down here and we see test.
Right.
Well, we set our second var equal to test, and then we logged it out. Then we told the computer, screw test. We don't want to keep that in memory anymore. We're going to override whatever is in second var with this new assignment equal to world. So when we log that out, even though these are the same exact commands, the computer is executing from the top to the bottom. And that's a really, really important concept to keep in mind, is that the computer is always reading top to the bottom until we get into stuff like functions, which we're going to get into a little bit later. So even though this command and this command are the exact same thing, because we change the variable here, we're actually seeing test and world come out differently.
So the console.log is going to be under every like content instruction?
No, if we don't want to see console.log is for us as a developer to be able to test it to see, hey, at the time this console log is running, what's the variable or the content inside those parentheses. So we don't have to write any of these console logs, but we're putting them in so as a developer, we can see what the computer is doing under the hood.
Thank you.
And it's also important to note here, I only use this let command once. We only use let or const when we're making a new variable. When we're updating an existing variable or just referencing it, we just use the variable name.
So constant isn't gonna let you change it, but let will.
Correct.
Okay.
It's kind of like in math where you say let x equal 3, and then x can change over time, compared to const, which is, hey, this is a constant, this isn't going to change. Shannon, what's up?
So you said that, it goes from top to bottom. So with constant, with that there, that's not letting anything change.
Correct.
But anything that doesn't have anything in front of it, that will change by what line?
Yes.
Is that
So
right?
when we declare this variable here, we set it equal to test. Then when console logs, it's logging out the test, which we can see right here. Then we update that variable name, right? Or we update that variable. We say, hey, I don't care what was in second var anymore. I'm taking whatever is on the right side of the equal and assigning it into the left side of the equal. So now test is gone out of second var. There's no way to get test back out of second var. That is wiped from memory. We overwrote it with the word world. So when we tell that to log out again, that is going to show world. Test is now gone. Asmo, what's up?
Oh yeah, I had a question. I was trying to troubleshoot why mine was showing error, but I figured I had console with an M instead of an N, so I'm all set.
That will do it.
So even though we overwrote second var with world, its test is still showing up on the bottom.
Yes, because at the time of running, this was in here. So what it's doing is it's running from the top down. So basically the computer is ignoring all of this code until it gets to it. So it's saying, okay, store test in second var. Now you want me to print second var. So if we left these two lines of code out, it would hit that console log, say I've reached the end of the file and be done. So these console logs are always going to show at the time of execution, what is that value? So the computer is storing the test in the second var, it's logging it out, then it's overwriting that variable, then it's logging the variable out again.
Okay, so if we didn't want the test on the bottom, we would take out the console log second var right there.
And this is a great opportunity to show you that comments can be used for more than English, more for writing our notes. If we click on this line and hit Command/, that will automatically put in a comment for us on that line. So if we save that, come back down to our terminal and rerun it, we get just hello world. Okay, so got our basic variable types down, feeling pretty good about that. Allie, because second var is a let, it will stay world until we change the value again, or until the program stops running. But yes, once it hits this point, it will keep that in memory until we reference it again or update it. Okay, so we've seen what a plus button does on two numbers. Let's see what happens if I come down here and I say console.log first var plus second var. Well, that's going to be interesting. I come down here, I run the command, and I get hello world together. This is now no longer a math operator. It is what we call concatenation. Concatenation is when we take two data types and smush them together. So we took first var and we took second var, and they are both strings, so we just put them right next to each other. Okay, Rain, what's up?
I'm typing everything that you have here, but for some reason it's not coming up in the terminal.
Are you hitting up enter to rerun the node command?
Thank you.
Okay, Well, this is kind of interesting. What happens if we take another variable, let's say const, and we're going to call it my num, and we're going to store some number in it. I'm also going to store my string, and I'm going to put another number in there in quotes. So we can put numbers into strings. However, you have to be careful around your data types, because look what happens when I do my num plus my string. The computer knows this is a number. Because of that, it would use this plus operator to add those two numbers together. However, my string says, no, 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 whatever's in here, it doesn't matter. It's a string. This plus is now no longer going to do the math. It is now going to act as a concatenation. So when I come down here, what my output is 84, not 12. Watch your data types, because that can cause some issues down the road. So strings are going to turn the plus operator into concatenation. The numbers are going to make that plus match a math operator and add them together. However, if we mix our data types, the concatenation will win over the string operator and cause it to concatenate instead of adding. Okay, how are we feeling?
Max, I didn't get a space between hello world, and I remember you were supposed to put a space around the plus, but it didn't work.
Yeah, so there are two ways to get a space in your hello world here. You can either put a space on either side of the string right here or right here. And every letter matters between the opening quote and the closing quote. So if we put a space right after our opening quote of the word of the string world and rerun it, you'll notice we'll get a space for our hello world. The other way that we can do it is that we can string together our concatenation operators. So we can do first var plus quote and a space between the quotes, close our quote, and then another plus, and concatenate together 3 strings together. Palash, I will post a JavaScript cheat sheet that will have a breakdown of all the syntax that will include the data types. Shannon, are you asking about concatenation or another term? Concatenation is when we use the plus operator to just put 2 or more strings together. So when we did the first var plus the second var here, concatenation literally means just take the word test and put it next to the word world and output that. So you'll notice my output here says hello world all on one string, because we're adding 2 strings together. And unlike numbers that will do the math operation, concatenation just means that we're putting the left one and the right one next to each other. Asmo, what's up?
I'm not really getting anything outputted. It's showing an error message.
What's your error?
Second var is not defined at abject.
Ooh, you might have a period somewhere. Go ahead and share your screen. Okay, so you've got a capital S on line 20, and you'll notice it even has a faint little white line underneath it. That's giving you a heads up, hey, and while you're there, you inverse your camel casing. You should have a capital V there. Yep.
How do I clear this again?
If you type in the word clear and hit enter, it will clear it out for you. And then you can still use your up enter to even after you cleared. And you're all caught up.
Thank you.
Now you'll notice our terminal commands are starting to like build up here, and we've got a lot of stuff in our console. That's okay. We're just playing around today. We not trying to boil the ocean here. As we're going, we'll start commenting out our console logs and cleaning up the output. But for right now, we're just in a little sandbox, right? We're just starting to learn these concepts. Any questions so far? Okay, we've got two more very important data types that we want to go over. One is called an array, and the other one is called an object. An array is just a list of data. So I'm going to say const my array, and I'm going to use square brackets. Square brackets are underneath the minus and plus key. We've used curly braces or curly brackets in our CSS. This might be the first time that we're using those square brackets. I think we also use them maybe for the pseudo selectors in CSS, but arrays, kind of like strings are used with double quotes, arrays are always used with our square brackets or braces. You may hear either, they're pretty much interchangeable, braces versus brackets. I use them interchangeably. Okay. An array can hold multiple pieces of information. So our first array is going to hold a couple numbers. Let's say 7, 5, and 3. Every time we want another item in our array, we are going to separate them with commas. Now, just like any other variable type, we can see the value of that array by console logging it out. So I come down, I console log it, and I get exactly what I'm expecting, 7, 5, and 3. The power with arrays is not only can we loop over them, which we're going to work our way up to, but they are also indexed. What we mean by indexed is that every spot in the array is given an index number. That means that if I want the number to come out, I can use my square brackets again and provide an index number. So if I want the first number to come out, I type in 1 in that index. I come down here, I run it, and what do I get? I get 5. Like, huh? Well, something's off there. What happens if I do the second index? I run that, I hit enter, and I got 3. Well, what happened to my 7? Well, computers don't start counting at 1. Where do computers start counting at? They start counting at 0 in JavaScript. So, guys, beating me to the punch in the chat, if I do my 0 there, then I get the 7 number coming out instead. That means that arrays are 0 indexed in JavaScript. And that's a very good quiz question that I don't think I came up with in this week's quiz. Indexes are always starting at 0 in JavaScript. So if we want that very first number to come out, we don't use index 1. Index 1 is actually the second number in the array. We use index 0 to get that out. Now, what happens if I say index 4? I save, I come down here, and I get this undefined as a message. Undefined is the computer trying to say, like, there's no value there, right? We don't have a definition of what's in index 4. So you'll see two keywords, undefined and null. They don't mean the exact same thing, but they are conveying the same concept that the computer doesn't really have a value for that index or that variable. It's undefined, it's null, it doesn't really have anything in there. Okay, so we can use these indexes to actually chain some of our concepts together here. We can use my array 1 with my array 2, and run that. And what do we get? We get 8. Now you may look at that and go, yeah, that makes sense. You know, go get the number at index 1, that's 5. Go get the array at index number 2, that's 3. 5 plus 3 together adds together, that's 8. And then we console log it out. Those little steps are very important because we're looking at this and we think that's one line of code. That isn't one step for the computer, though. The computer goes through this process and says, okay, my array, where's my array? That's up here. Okay, index 1. What number is index 1? That is number 5. Take that 5 and put it right here. Okay, now what? Add something to it. Okay, I'm going to keep that in memory. What next? Go back to my array. Okay, it goes back over here. What do you want from my array? Oh, I want index 2. Index 2 is the number 3 right here. It takes that 3, comes down here, and puts it in. Now the computer says, I've got those 2 numbers. What do you want me to do with them? I want you to add them together. Now I get 8. What do you want me to do with that 8? I want you to put it in the console for me. So even though this only looks like one line of code, the computer is executing multiple steps there for that to happen. Now, why does that matter? Because when you're working on your code and debugging it, it may throw some error and you're like, what's going on here? When you break it down to the level that the computer is executing it, it makes it easier to understand what goes wrong with it. Jen, don't worry, the computers don't have feelings yet. Okay, so we've got our arrays. Any questions on arrays? Now, we are going to move into our final data type. The last data type is called an object. And so far, we've just been naming these variables kind of willy-nilly, right? We're just putting my in front of them or whatever. But variable types should always be named to be thorough. They should be named to be descriptive. Descriptive is the word I'm looking for. Descriptive based off of whatever is stored inside of that. So I called this my array. That's not really a great name. I could call this my number array, but what the heck are the numbers representing? Well, so far they haven't been really representing anything. But we may want to get a little bit more descriptive. We may want to say, we're going to create something called num pets. And in that, we are going to use our last major data type, which is our curly braces. Our curly braces represent an object. An object is the most powerful variable type in JavaScript and also probably the most widely used. So in our object, we have key value pairs. The key always goes on the left side. Then we put a colon and put the value on the right. So let's say I have dogs and I have 8 dogs. I don't, I only have 1, but let's say I have 8 dogs. I can put a comma there and continue listing as many key value pairs as I would like. Shannon, I'm going to come to that question. Oh, yes, you can use let here, and then that would allow you to modify the array. Yes. And you can do a let here as well. So I'm going to say I've got 8 dogs and I have 0 cats. And I can then come down and just console log out my num pets, run that, I got 8 dogs, 0 cats. But I can dive into that data a little deeper. So I can say, hey, how many dogs do I have? This is called dot notation. That dot notation is allowing me to go into the numpets and then is using the key of dogs to get out the number 8. That was a bad example because this also added up to 8. So I'm just going to change my numbers here to 7 and 2. So I come up here, enter, I get my 7. Now we can chain these concepts together. I can put in a string here that says dogs and put a plus in there as well. Now I'm declaring a new string. I am concatenating in an object from numpets, and I'm using my dot notation to go into my dogs and get out the number 7. So I save that, I come down here, I run it, and now I get dogs 7.
It doesn't matter, Max, that you have dogs lowercase in the numpets and then capitalized in your string.
No, I could make this string whatever I wanted. I could really confuse you and say cats. This is more just a label for us. The string, because we put it in quotes, is the computer's like, whatever you put in there, I'm going to pretty much ignore and just output it for you.
Okay,
And that's how most strings behave.
that's right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that's the quotes that's telling the computer that. Brandy, you have a question?
I don't know if it's a question so much as mine is throwing up an unexpected token, but I don't know why, because I feel like mine looks exactly like yours.
It's probably a missing comma, but I'm going to make an example of you. Share your screen, and I'm going to give you a very helpful tip. Okay. So if you scroll up a little bit in your error, sorry, down just a tad. Here, let me just request. Okay. So in your error here, you see it gives you this whole file path and you're like, yeah, whatever. This colon 34 is actually telling you the issue is on line number 34. And so that's a really helpful thing to look at in your error message. That is because you have a colon here. And a colon is used at the end of a line. However, in an object to denote that another key value pair is coming, we use a comma instead. So if I save that and run it, you get your dog 7.
Okay.
Syntax
Thanks.
we're learning along the way, comma separates out our objects compared to semicolon, which is telling the computer, hey, I'm done with this whole object. I've made it. I'm all set.
Okay. Also, actually, since I, on yours, like some of your, like, okay, on 38, the numpets dogs is like that light blue, like the whole thing is light blue. On mine, like there are some of mine that are like, this feels like it's something that's not important, but I don't know, so I'm asking anyway. Mine is like, I've got certain things of mine that are dark blue.
I'm glad you're asking, because when I share my screen, you're going to notice that mine looks just like yours. It's just not coming through on the live share. But if you look at it in Zoom, when I reshare my screen, you're going to see it looks just like yours does. So it looks like the colors aren't fully coming through on live share. You're not crazy.
Okay. I
have no idea why it's doing that.
Okay.
But yeah,
Not crazy about
it's not
that.
you.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Asmo, what's up?
I'm having the same issue. It's not really outputting anything but an error, but it's a different kind of error for me.
Share your screen. This is when it's super, super, super important to pay attention to everyone else, because Ariel will back me up here. I'll start calling you out if you're asking questions that just got solved by another student, right? All of these errors are helping you in your future to know how to deal with these errors. Okay. So I think your problem is not that you've got anything wrong with your code. When I hit up here, look at what it's doing. It's Node.js, script.js, and then clear. It's trying to like run too many things at once here. So what happened is at some point you tried to type in clear with Node script.js, and the whole terminal was like, whoa, what's going on here? So
Okay.
instead, if we keep hitting enter, we'll get to a version. No, we won't. We'll get, oh, screw it. We'll just retype in Node script.js and hit enter, and that will get you cleared back out.
Oh,
And so
okay.
now when you hit up enter, it will reuse that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. Jania, what's up? Janaya, sorry.
I was about to get you back. Okay.
Please call me
so-
out on it, but I caught myself on that one.
You did. Okay, so I don't think it's nothing major, but your terminal say cats, mine say dogs. Did I miss something?
No, sorry. I didn't rerun that command.
Okay, all right, just making
It should say dogs. I just did that as an example, but it should be
Okay.
dogs.
All right, I'll just make it sure.
Yep. Jen, what's up?
So I did mine just a little bit different just to see what would happen. Like I added dogs plus something else, and it showed up as dogs on the bottom.
Share your screen. Zoom is killing me with this bottom bar. What is, so you should have dogs and then 1 in your terminal. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, so why is it? Just wondering why it does that.
Because whatever is in the strings here
Yeah.
is just a label to it. You could put I hate programming in there and it would say I hate programming. And
Mhm.
then it would take whatever key is here, go get the key from here, take that value and dump it in right here.
Okay.
So this is more of a label that the computer is just outputting for us. And then whatever is in here is what it's actually evaluating because
Oh.
it's not in the quotes.
So it's taking the label, then the value.
You got it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good question. And I like seeing you playing around. That's good. Rain, what's up?
So I'm pressing up enter to save my life. I have everything you've typed down for the array. I understand it, but I still cannot get it to come up in my terminal.
So when you were hitting up, is it typing in node space script.js?
You know it.
All right, share your screen.
Okay.
So let me request remote. So when you're hitting up, it isn't typing node script.js. Up is only going to save, up is only going to rerun the last command you ran. The last command you ran was node-v. So you need to tell it, hey, I want you to run script.js. Now, not only is it going to give you all that output, but now that this is the last command that you ran, when you hit up, it will autofill it for you and then enter to run it.
Okay. All right. I must have did something wrong when I typed it initially. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone else have questions?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
How come we needed to put a colon after dogs as our label? Like, how come we needed to put that?
Yeah, so
We just put it so that it would look like that in the when we ran it, like that it would be separated like that.
we always use colons in objects to separate our keys from our values.
No,
So
not there. In our label.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We just did it so it would look like that at the bottom.
you got it. Yeah, if I
Okay.
wanted a dash in there, I could do that instead.
Okay.
Yeah, anything inside your string is going to be ignored by the computer. So anything in those quotes is just telling the computer, hey, take this exact text and either output it for me or store it for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? These concept questions are like spot on from what we want to be doing.
So within the array, it doesn't actually translate to exactly what you're putting. It's just a variable. You're just putting something in that box per se.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this is where it gets a little bit more fun. We can mix and match our data types. So in my num pets, I can come down here and put some elephants in my object, and I am going to have false elephants. And I can also come down and take some snakes in here and say none. Okay. What did I just do there? Well, if I come down here and say console.log num pets.snakes, what am I going to get out? I'm going to get my string none. Okay. Well, what if I come down here and I, for some reason, now no longer want to store the number of my pets, which would be a very bad idea because this is, maybe let's do this. Let's call it dogs names. And in my dogs names, if I come in here and just say, looks like I should be able to get away with that. My first sign that something went wrong is I have a red in my prettier. What happens if I run this command? I see something that says unexpected string. I don't need a console log because the computer got to this and gave up. Notice it outputted dog7, none, and then it was like, I don't know what's going on here. An object can only have one value for every key. But we just said that we can mix data types. A value can be any data type. In order to store multiple values in this, I need to use an array. I'm going to put my square brackets around that. Now, my dog's name only has one value. It is an array. But inside that array, I can get out access to individual pieces of that information. How can I do that? Well, I still need my console.log. I still need my numpets. I can use my key, like dogs names. And if I save that, I can get out both of those names. Okay, well, if I can get out both of those names, let's go back up here. This is an array. So if I would like my second dog name to come out, it's 0 indexed. I start with 1. I come up here, I rerun it. Now I get the best dog in the world. Sorry, I'm just coming at it, Ariel. Name to come out. All right, now we're going to get super meta and not in the Facebook way. Well, if we can put...
Hold on, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, please.
We got the error message. How come it didn't show us what line it was on, like you showed us in the other example?
Great question. It did. Script
Oh,
38.
okay. I didn't go up far enough. Oh, okay. I was looking. Thank you.
No problem. And that's a good note. If you clear your terminal, you can still scroll back up and see the history in it. Arrays can have mixed data types in them. Great question. So if I wanted to, I could add in the number 8 for whatever reason, and then come down here and get out my second index, and the number 8 would come out. Why do I keep on using 8 tonight? That's the one number I've reused everywhere. Sorry. That might make more sense. Okay. So we're going to get as meta as we get here. I have used an object in an array. There is no level, there's no limit to the level of things I can store in an object. The object keys always have to be a string. They always have to be some kind of name. But that is not to say that I can't store an object in an object. So let's say that I've got an array of cars. And in those cars, an object, curly brace, so it's an object, not an array. I misspoke there. I have Toyota. And in Toyota, Toyota was founded in 1919. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. It also has models of Camry and RAV4. And inside those models, it is USA false. And we can continue nesting. We could have Ford. And Ford doesn't even have to have the same data type. Ford could have the F-150 stored in it. And it could also have a, oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't even know. What's another Ford model?
Explorer.
Explorer, thank you.
T model.
Oh, I like that. We're going to throw that in. Model T. Okay. So I'm going to stop here. I want you to spend the last 10 minutes of class playing around with this object. I'm going to send this to you in Zoom in case you want to copy and paste that code in. Set your sights on a value in that object, whether that's USA false, whether that's 1919, whether that's the Model T. Play around with a console log and make sure that you can get the values out of the car's object. In other words, if I'm shooting for RAV4 to come out, I'm going to do a console.log, and it's like a layer of an onion. Every time that I go into that object or into an array, I'm peeling another layer back. So I start with cars because I want that object. Now I'm trying to get to the RAV4. I can't get to the RAV4 until I get to Toyota. Toyota is inside the object, so I use that dot notation. Now I'm in Toyota. Toyota is its own object. What am I trying to peel away at? I'm trying to get into the models. So I'm going to say dot models. Now I'm looking at models, and models is not an object. So I say, hold up. It is an array. How do we get into arrays? We use that square bracket instead. Now I'm trying to get to RAV4, but I'm not going to let an array trip me up. Camry is index 0, so RAV4 must be index 1. I'm going to save. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to rerun it, and I get my RAV4. Janaya, what's up?
Okay, so after we did from like 33 through 43, as far as in the dog names, etc. I'm getting an error, like I don't know what I did wrong.
Share screen.
think that's the right one, I'm sure.
You shared my code, not yours.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No problem. Easy mistake. I don't care to admit the number of times I have said, your code looks totally fine, and then realized it's still mine. Still my code.
What the heck?
In the screen share, there's like a yellow blip about a third down that says following Max Matthews. That may be
Okay, this
easier to spot.
might be it.
Okay, yeah, that works. So, okay. I think go ahead and just scroll all the way down to the bottom of your terminal and click in it and then hit up enter again.
Oh wait, is it this one thing?
Oh, it's there you go. That's it. You beat me to it. There's like 2 exists in that array.
Okay, all
There you
right,
go.
all right.
Good catch. Goggin, what's up?
I just wanted to say I have not understood objects and array for a year and a half that I've been trying to learn, but now I'm finally getting it. This is what my point was. I needed a teacher, like in person. I have watched so many videos I could not figure out, but now, oh man, now it's clicking.
It feels painfully slow. And you guys are like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then we're going to start the projects in 2 weeks and you're going to be like, WTF, man, like, where did all this come from? So this is, even though it feels slow, this is good to let the concept sink in, spend another 6 minutes here, right? Just playing around with it, making sure you're getting this. Because I think some of you learned a lesson last Thursday of, even though it's sinking in, even though I think I'm getting it, when I try and do it on my own, that's when shit really hits the fan, right? So we're going to try and go slower this week on giving you time to play around with these concepts so that when we start the projects, you're going to know what questions to ask, because it's not just about, hey, does my code look right? It's, hey, why are we using those square brackets? Hey, what's that dot doing? Hey, what is the data structure? How do we line that up to get out what we want out of it? Shannon, what's up?
So I was trying to do one with Ford, like you did with Toyota. And when I go in and do it looks like it's the same. And I put in 0, it just gives me an error.
Okay, share screen. Okay, so we are peeling back the onion, right? So we go to cars and we line that up with cars here. Then we go into Ford and we use the dot notation because cars is the object. And we know that by the curly brace, right? So we go into Ford and we find Ford here. Then we go into models and we chopped our finger off while trying to peel off the onion because we don't have models inside Ford. I intentionally did that, right? Because while Toyota is an object that has models in it, Ford does not. So try and fix the error on your own and see if you can do it.
Nope, never mind.
You were very close. Very, very close. That's it.
Cool.
Nice work.
And then, so if we wanted to put models in, though, we would just set it up the same way as we did in Toyota.
Correct. You would have to put in an object with your curly brace, and then you could put in models, and then yes, then it would be the same.
Okay, thank you.
Objects do not have to be declared as const. They can be declared as lets. Oddly enough, you can still modify an object even though it's declared as a const, but that's going a little bit deeper into JavaScript than I care to go. So yes, you can declare it as a let, and if you are modifying the object after you make the object, it is preferred to declare it as a let. It does not have to be like basic data types of a Boolean or a string or a number. But yes, any variable that can be declared as a const can be declared as a let. There's one other declaration type called var that we'll get into tomorrow. And I will also get into how we modify an array after we create it starting tomorrow, along as modifying objects.
I was thinking, why didn't Max use var like the first thing? That's like the basics of like, you know, starting with var and then let and then const.
Old school JavaScript. We only teach modern standards, at least modern enough that I have learned. But I'll get into var tomorrow.
All right.
Rain, what's up? While you're unmuting. So this is not the order I normally teach this. You will find that Free Code Camp teaches this completely differently. That doesn't mean that Free Code Camp is wrong. They may be teaching a different method or a different standard. We may not see eye to eye, but that doesn't mean Free Code Camp won't be helpful. However, what I have found is that if you are a fan of Free Code Camp for HTML, that does not mean you will like it for JavaScript. There is another site that Ariel is going to throw in the links for me called the Odin Project. And the Odin Project is an alternative to Free Code Camp. There are a ton of JavaScript resources out there. I encourage you to take a look at that. However, I will warn you to not go down rabbit holes. If you find one resource that you like, latch onto that resource for dear life and only use one resource and things that we've done in class. Because JavaScript, I think as Gagan will attest, is a rabbit hole that you can find all of these resources that throw you off and confuse you. So if you feel like you're getting things in class, stick to only class. You don't have to do anything else. If you feel like you need a little bit more help outside of class, one-on-ones are great, or try a couple different resources. Once you find the resource that works for you, stick with them through and through. Do not jump ship. Do not start Googling a bunch of different things. If you have an error message that you don't understand, it's fine to go Google that. But as you're starting to do other tutorials, other projects, other things, it is very easy to lose track of what we are doing in class. So I would say limit yourself to one other resource if you are looking outside of class other than error messages. Shay, good question. When you are declaring a variable, you should always use either let or const. When I say declaring a variable, I basically mean making a new one. If you're editing an existing variable, totally fine. In fact, you shouldn't use let or const. You should just put the variable name, the equal operator, the assignment operator, and whatever the new value is. But whenever you are making a new variable, creating the name for it and assigning a value to it, you should always use let or const. I will post a couple resources and go over them tomorrow. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're looking at your notes and being like, dear God, what did I just create? That's okay. I'm going to share a couple resources tomorrow that you may find more helpful. You may find the notes more helpful. This is all we're doing all week. We are just going slow through these concepts, and we're going to build these concepts because you've already seen arrays are meshing into objects, which are meshing into syntax. So go through it slowly. Make sure you're understanding it. Ariel's really pushing for the 30-second feedback, so feel free to fill that out. I don't care if you wait until the end of the week, but if you want to see an improvement for tomorrow's class, that is the most important time to fill out the 30-second feedback, because I check those every single night and then cry myself to sleep. No, just kidding. Fill those out. I'm going to get to raise hands, and then I'm going to circle back in the chat. It is already 2 minutes over, so you are welcome to GTFO. I am going to stick around to answer any questions that pop up. Do not feel obligated to stay on just for me. Rain, what's up?
So I continue writing arrays as you mentioned to do, and I feel as though everything is correct. I check my curly brackets for my objects, etc. I just want to take you just a quick look. It's not coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is like a totally different kind of error. And so this is something that takes time to understand. Okay, so before I even look at the error, I'm looking at, I turn on like word spell check mode. Where's the first place you see a red squiggly?
Right at BC. On what I put, but honestly,
you're not wrong.
It's modeled.
There you go. Okay, so what do you notice the difference between 48 to 49 and 43 to 44? Yes, but
let's see.
You're not wrong there.
It aligns.
Missing a comma.
Okay, thank you.
So whenever we have another key coming in that object, we need the comma. So I would take out your BC here and put a comma in there.
Okay.
And then when we're looking at beverages, I'm about to start drinking. Make sure you've got your quotes in there. So whenever we are working with a string, like up here, we had F-150 Explorer, we're putting those in quotes.
It wasn't the right color. I should have known that. You just
And then
mentioned
the
that earlier.
last thing I noticed, your object keys cannot have a dash in them. So when you get down to non-alcoholic, I would put in just take out the dash and put in a capital A.
Oh.
No spaces in our key names either.
Should I put non-capital as well? The first consonant?
No, but take out the space between the non and the A.
Okay. And I need to, bam.
And then take out this space for between the non and the A for non-alcoholic.
Oh, okay.
Camel case instead of spaces.
Camel.
And
gotcha.
then beginning of time needs a quote because it's a string.
I hope if I spelled that right.
I can never spell beginning right. Quotes for string.
There you go.
Put quotes around beginning of time because it's a string.
Okay, right color. I got to remember that right there for the syntax.
And then same for water, milk, and juice, and then you'll be all caught up and good to go.
Okay, and I noticed prettier turned red too because of all this, so that
It
helped.
sure did.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I lied, you need a comma on 58 because non-alcoholic is in the beverages object. So on 58, you need a comma at the end of 58.
Oh, at the end. Okay. Because I'm continuing it. Got you. Okay.
And then comma on at the end of beginning of time after that quote, because we're continuing the non-alcoholic object. And
Beautiful.
hopefully prettier saves your butt when you hit save. Aha.
Let's see. Yeah, we're good to go. Thank you.
Yep. Jen, what's up?
Can I share my screen with you and just all right. So you see how I'm trying to like make a whole sentence, and I'm only getting I drive object. How do I like get that down here?
Or
you
so you can't really. Well, I'm going to give you two answers.
You can't, but you don't want to.
There's a hacky answer that I'm going to give you, and then there's a more correct answer for the beginner. So I'm going to give you that to get started.
Okay.
So, do you want?
I was
So
trying to
we
pinpoint
can't.
and make a sentence out of it.
Okay, so we can't easily use a key as a value down here.
Okay.
So what we could say is, like, you're on the right track here, right? I drive if we just take this part out,
yep,
and say I drive a car Jeep Model 0, we get the Wrangler that we want.
Mm-hmm.
If we wanted to say cars Jeep made, and then put a space in between them, we could do that as well, because what we're going for is a value. It's not the key itself.
Okay. So you can't.
So if we do
target keys.
that, we get that right.
Okay.
What you were trying to do is to output everything in the Jeep. And it's like, if you do just cars.jeep, you would get all of the information in the object.
Mhm.
But as soon as you try and do a string with that and concatenate it, you're mixing two different data types.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like when we added 8 and 4 up here and we got 84.
Yeah.
It's doing the same thing. It's like this whole thing is not a string. And so it's taken and it's like, it's an object and whatever over here, and we're concatenating the two of them together.
Okay. So you can't target a key.
You can't target a key, correct?
Okay.
There are things that we will learn, and
No, I don't even want to know.
okay, I'm not even going to show it. There
Thank
are
you.
ways to do that, but we're going to level up our JavaScript in order to
Yeah.
get there.
Thank you.
Amberlynn, what's up?
Okay, I've been looking at my code. I'm still on the original const cars.
Okay.
And my red curly first bracket is red.
Okay, share your
And
screen.
I don't see any issues. Okay. Right here.
Okay. Well, I don't see any issues with your code either, which usually means it's actually a problem higher up. So let me take a look. No, I still don't see any issues with your code. Okay, give me a minute.
Because the last thing that we did, I thought I got the answer, and then so I moved on.
Okay, here's the problem. We have our opening, just like our tags, we need to match our openings and our closings. So if I click on this closing, you see how it highlights it just like it does in our HTML. If I click on this one, notice that it's highlighting this, but look
Yes.
what's missing, this one up here. So if I put that closing curly in there, Prettier is now happy with you and you're all caught up.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Sorry for the delay there. I rode 40 miles on my bike yesterday and then drove up from New York City this morning. So I'm a little tired. Happy to stick around though. Asmo, what's up?
Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I did this incorrectly. I tried to take a shot at making my own, but it's giving me an error message. So I'm
You
pretty sure
were
I'm doing something.
very close. One, you've got twoiopes,
Yep.
and you've got foods instead of food.
Okay, food. Is that the only error? It can't be that simple.
It sure is.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Does it make a difference on the space between the parentheses at all after the equal sign? Or that doesn't mean anything?
The spacing is less important to JavaScript unless it's in a string or you're trying to like name a variable with spaces in it. Spaces are kind of like HTML. You know how you could have them at different levels of indentation and it would still work. JavaScript is kind of like that in that the spaces between certain syntax characters don't matter. It's just like in a string or in a variable name that spaces matter.
Okay, I'm not gonna hold you any longer, but thank you for answering the phone yesterday while you were bike riding. Have a good night.
No problem. Have a good night.
Thank
Bye.
you. Have a good night, everyone.
Wait, he answered the phone for you guys? Oh, what the heck, Max?
Bye.
I'll see you guys.